Captured. Chapter 10. The Bailey and Andrew were soon freed from their uncomfortable position, and I joined them. Dougal came to our help, and took us to Rob Roy's wife. Helen McGregor Campbell had not personally taken part in the fight, but her aspect was menacing. Her hands and arms were naked, her face and sword were stained with blood, her hair was in a disorderly state. Her eyes were inflamed by the triumph of victory. She looked like a biblical heroine. "I am very happy to have this joyful opportunity," said the Bailey. "Do you remember me, Mrs. McGregor Campbell? I am your cousin, Nicol Jarvie, son of Deacon Jarvie." He explained the connection between their two families, and talked of the times when Rob Roy had still been an honest cattle merchant. We were interrupted by the melancholy sound of bagpipes. Rob Roy's two sons arrived, and I looked at them with interest. The two boys were young, hardly 20. The elder, Hamish, or James in English, was tall, fair and handsome, with blue eyes and a profusion of blonde hair under his blue bonnet. The younger, Robert, or Oig in the language of the Highlanders, had dark hair and a dark complexion. He was a stout, strong boy, a real Highlander. They brought bad news, however. Their father had been captured and was now a prisoner of the English troops. But Helen McGregor did not weep at their news. Instead, she shouted at them furiously. "Your father taken? A prisoner? And you are still alive? Better that you had died protecting him." Rob Roy's sons stood in front of their mother and listened to her approaching words silently. Their faces showed pain and shame. She asked what had happened, and Hamish told her how his father had fallen into a trap. He spoke in a low tone of voice, and he spoke in English. Probably because he did not want his followers to understand, but I was very near them and I could hear his story. A man had brought Rob Roy a message from a person whose name I could not hear. Rob Roy had left with 3 men, but only one of them had come back. "The man that brought the message is our hostage now," Hamish continued. "We can try to exchange him for our father." Helen asked to see him. They brought forward a man half dead with terror. Imagine my great surprise, when I recognized him. He was my old acquaintance, Mr. Morris. He fell on the ground before Helen McGregor and implored her to spare his life. I was totally ignorant of any design on the person of Rob Roy, a man I honor and love. I was sent by Rashleigh with a message for McGregor, but I did not know of the plot against him. But the woman was not moved by his words. "Life is a heavy burden for me, for you it is enjoyment. This enjoyment must end. You shall die, miserable dog," she said, and gave a brief command to her attendants. 2 Highlanders came and dragged Morris to a cliff over the lake. He struggled and shouted while they tied a rock around his neck and took off some of his clothes. His cries were terrible, I still remember them. He looked at me and begged for my help, and I tried to speak on his behalf, but my words were vain. They threw him into the cold, deep water. We were horrified. Bailey Jarvie protested. That was a cruel, unnecessary murder, he declared. Helen McGregor pretended not to hear, but turned to me and asked, "Are you Rashleigh Osbaldistone? I heard Morris call you Osbaldistone." "No, my name is Francis Osbaldistone," I replied. "Do you know this Rashleigh? Is he a relative of yours?" she continued. I answered that I knew him. "Then you will go to the garrison with a message," she told me. If they don't free Rob Roy McGregor in 12 hours, we will send back all our prisoners cut into pieces. A few minutes later I left for the garrison. The commanding officer read the letter I gave him and gave me his reply: Rob Roy must die. He showed no interest in the prisoners' lives and ordered the cavalry troops to prepare to leave, escorting Rob Roy and the English prisoner, that is to say, me.